All right, everyone. I'll repeat what I said a little earlier for the people who got in early. If you wish to rename yourself, if you hover over your face, there should be three dots, and you can click on it, and it says rename in the drop down. If you are a student, you can put your graduation year at the front. If you're an SMA member, you can add a star at the end of your name. And feel free to add your city or your school so we can kind of put you in a geographical context. And feel free to add your pronouns. And if you, everyone is muted, which is great. That helps with background noise and interruption of videos if you would just unmute when you want to ask or answer a question. And Erin, our webinar extraordinaire, will be giving a further orientation to the features we want to use for this event. But I want to start off with a couple of announcements. We are recording at the request of an SMA member who is coming in late. So if you're an SMA member, you'll be able to find that on the website sometime in the future. I'm not going to put Erin in a time constraint. And what was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, I want to congratulate Judy Martell on being awarded a lifetime membership to the SMA. So snaps and hand waves for Judy. I really wish this was like a reception in your honor. So you'll just have to, we can put a pin in that and come back to that when we can all be together.
Thank you. Veronica did a lovely job presenting it. So
thank you.
Made it extra special.
And you're extra special, Judy.
Thank you.
Erin, it looks like we have 20 people. You feel like this is
17, sure. Yeah, and then they can join in late because I didn't lock it. So and then we can record it for later too, or it is recorded for later. So hi friends, a lot of you have seen my face around in a lot of these SMA things. If you'll note, if you can read my full name, it says not only Colorado interloper, but SMA den mother. That's what some of the various regions have decided to call me. So I'm helping Veronica with the moderating side of this, along with Mallory, who's also doing that. If you haven't been on one of these before, this is a meeting format, not a webinar format. So we do have no Q&A, but you do have the chat. You can also, if you have go up to the participants area, which you may, if it's not already up, you need to find that by hovering at the bottom and then clicking on participants, and where your name is, that's where you can rename yourself by the three dots to the right of your name. You should have a blue hand signal. I don't have that as a host, but I believe it is along with the yes, no, go slower, go faster area. And I always love to give people a test out of the yes and no features. So instead of doing my normal question, how many of you actually got a degree in stage management or are working, we'll count the students too, are working on it. There is in the participants area, there's a green yes and a red no. A green yes and a red no. So if you have a stage management degree and or are working on one, click yes. This is also to get you to figure out where those controls are. So if you guys later decide to do this. And then meanwhile, those of us that are hosts, we can see it's currently 8 yeses and 3 nos. It also comes up next to your name. If you do raise your blue hand, it does negate your vote, just so you know. We're now at 9 and 3 and Judy's hand up. So there we go. So this is just a way for you all to figure out where those controls are. So 10 yeses, 3 or 4 nos, and 3 people have not involved themselves, including Veronica hasn't actually voted, I can tell. So that's how those work. We do have, if you hover over the bottom, there's a little reactions button. So if we wanted to clap for Judy Martell, you can do that. And there's a big yellow hand over my face now, and it stays up for about 10 seconds. There's no way to make it go away. But that's where likes are and things like that. Yeah, and you can rename yourself as we said. Fun feature, if you haven't figured this out, under where it says stop video, where you're all I think everybody right now is showing your video. If you don't know, in there, the little caret up under video and under meetings is where you can expand it to show up to 49 people at once. If you are watching this in gallery view and have to scroll through a couple pages, you don't have to if you click that button. That's also where you can hide non-video people. So if you don't want to see somebody's just plain old name, right now everybody's got their video on, but that's where that little fancy button is as well. And I think that covers about all of it. We've left it so you can privately chat with anybody, both amongst yourselves or to any of the hosts privately as well. That feature is enabled for this one, and you should be able to mute and unmute and unvideo yourself as well.
And I've roped in Mallory to help us moderate, so she's going to be keeping an eye on the chat and keeping an eye on the blue hand raises. As I keep the conversation going, she can alert me to other things that are going on. If you're interested in helping moderate a future event, please email me and let me know. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. You can contact me for any number of reasons. But especially if you got the link to this event from somebody else and you want to get on my direct distribution list, I would be happy to directly communicate with you. All right, let's introduce ourselves. So I'll go through and call on everybody to introduce themselves. You can give a mini bio, introducing yourself, including what city you work in or what school you go to. If you have a particular performance discipline you work in, if you're union, non-union, whatever you think introduces you. So I'm Veronica. I'm the Milwaukee Vice Regional Rep for the Stage Managers Association. I'm an equity stage manager working mostly in Milwaukee. I am also a stage management educator and mentor. And next, Erin, do you want to say any more about yourself?
Sure. I actually do have Wisconsin connections. I was at the Milwaukee Rep as an apprentice. I came through town with the Rockettes in 2003, and I was also at Skylight twice in the 2015-2016 season, but otherwise I'm based out of Aurora, Colorado.
Excellent. Next, we'll go to Mallory, and then on deck is Alexander.
Hi, I'm Mallory. I go to school in Viterbo at Viterbo University, which is in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I'm about to be a senior, and I'm getting my BFA in theater with an emphasis in stage management and a minor in arts administration, which is a mouthful, but that is my degree.
Thank you. Next is Alexander, and after that, Emmy.
Hi, I'm Alexander Carey. I recently graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater with a BFA in theater with an emphasis in stage management.
Emmy, and then Sydney.
Hi, I'm Emmy Stenbeck. I just graduated from Carthage College with a BA in technical theater with an emphasis in stage management, currently located in the Minneapolis area.
Excellent.
Hello, I'm Sydney. I go to UW La Crosse, so Viterbo is a very familiar university to me. And I am studying with a theater major with an emphasis, or like a stage management major, and this is my roommate Camille. She's just hanging out, observing.
Welcome.
She's also a student at UW, although. In theater.
What was your roommate's name again?
Camille. I put it on the thing, but I think it dotted out.
No worries. Camille, as you may or may not know, there is a stage management cone of silence. So what is said in event stays in event. Sydney can fill you in. Next, let's introduce Devin and then Brandy.
Hi, I'm Devin. I am a junior, rising junior at Marquette, and I am majoring in theater arts in the design aspect rather than the performance, and focusing in stage management. Also, Isabel, who's on this call, and I ASM'd a show together earlier this year. Fun fact.
Excellent. After Brandy, we'll introduce Emily.
There we go. Hi, I'm Brandy Klein. I went to Lawrence University and graduated in 2000 with a theater major with an emphasis in stage management, which just means I did a lot of theater and stage managed a lot of shows. It was a very small, informal program. I worked primarily in Milwaukee until about 2 years ago as an equity stage manager, production manager, and company manager. And I am currently on hiatus, as some of you heard, raising my daughter. My primary areas will be straight plays and modern dance.
Excellent. Emily and then Frank.
Hi, my name is Emily Ottinger. I'm the resident stage manager and company manager for the Milwaukee Ballet. I went to UW Whitewater 2 years ago, so I graduated in 2018, I think. Yeah, 2018, sorry. And I did major in stage management through their program.
Excellent. Frank and then Isabel.
I'm Frank. I'm the Director of Operations, Productions, and Technology at the Menominee Nation Arena in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I also freelance stage management. Some of my regular gigs, I am the Technical Director and Production Stage Manager for a youth ballet company in Appleton. And I also regularly do the Miss Wisconsin Scholarship Pageant that is typically held in Oshkosh, along with dance, theater, all kinds of stuff from straight plays to full-on musicals, and do scenic work as well. Pay the bills.
Indeed. Isabel and then Jill.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I am a junior secondary education and theater double major with an emphasis in directing. And this is the opening summer of, I just started a 501c3 theater company, so I'm trying to get my hands on everything stage management, production wise. Better that. Behind me is my assistant director, Caroline.
Welcome. Jill and then Judy.
Hey, I'm Jill Krenicki. I am the production stage manager at Madison Opera. I am an AGMA stage manager. That's the union that covers opera stage managers, singers, chorus, dancers, etc., choreographers. What else? I don't know, I also do stage management for film with live symphony. So I work with a bunch of symphonies around the country. And that's about it.
Excellent. Judy and then Kimberly, have we introduced you yet? I don't think so. Judy and then Kimberly.
I'm Judy Martel. I'm a longtime SMA member and longtime equity stage manager, longtime everything. I'm old. I've primarily done straight theater, and I'm also the chair of the Wisconsin Equity Liaison Committee here. And I've worked with a lot of students, so it's nice to see people here.
Definitely. Kimberly and then Matt.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Corliss. I am the production stage manager at Milwaukee Rep. I've been the PSM there for the last 5 seasons. And I do all sorts of different things. I've been an equity member for the last long time, and I do all sorts of stuff at the Rep. So my breadth of work can be sort of anything that we do there.
Matt and then Sarah.
Matt Norby, Whitewater alum as well, with the BFA with stage management emphasis. I've only recently got more back into stage management. Primarily, I am a props person, house manager, whatever they'll pay me to do, I'm willing to do.
Matt is also kind of the unofficial assistant Milwaukee Vice Regional Rep as my husband. Sarah and then Tony.
Hi, I'm Sarah Acker. I went to, when I was in college, the UW Milwaukee had a professional theater training program. I have an not an MFA. I have a BFA in stage management. At the time, the PTTP was like a conservatory within the university. So I didn't have to take any math classes or any of that crap. I could just concentrate on theater. I was formerly AGMA, Equity, AFTRA, SAG, and IATSE. But I dropped them all when I took quite a long hiatus to raise my kids. I worked the Lyric Opera of Chicago, Anchorage Opera, and now I primarily do work for the Milwaukee Opera Theater here in town, and I also work for Florentine. That's it.
Tony?
Hi, Tony Rotano. I am an equity stage manager based in Madison at the moment. Kimberly, don't be afraid to say how long you've been an equity member. I've been an equity member for 41 years. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of dues. I work musicals, I work straight plays, I work comedy, I work a one-man show that goes all around the country. I guess that's pretty much it. I just have been in the business for a long time. So.
Excellent. We are happy to have you here. I
Thank
tried to, even though I'm the Milwaukee Vice Regional Rep, I'm trying to network with folks across the state. So I'm so excited to especially have our Madison and Fox Valley representatives here. I don't think I missed anyone in the introduction. Excellent. So I'd like to get things rolling with a question. Go ahead and raise your blue hand if you'd like to answer. For folks out in the field, what do you wish you knew when you were just starting your career? If you could go back and tell your young self something useful, what would it be? And let's start with Erin, who does not have a blue hand.
Right, I don't get the blue hand because I'm a host. It is such a small world. It is such a small world. It is such a small world. And also social media and in the webs, interwebs are not private. So I made some mistakes very early on, even back before social media was a thing, because I thought I was in a safe space. And even though we said this is a safe space, there's still stories that happen and stuff. So use your networking, use it to your advantage, but be careful.
Anyone else? Brandy?
So my space bar works when I test it, but not when I actually want to talk. I think I wish I had a different understanding of my own abilities when I started out. I had no idea how I got to where I was. I mean, I worked at Utah Shakes and at Milwaukee Rep as an intern, and I was very happy to be there and very interested, but I didn't know enough about what regional theater was and what I had landed in to know sort of what, like, how my qualifications and talents were being measured. So I kind of went blindly into it and just trusted the path, which worked for me. But I wish I had done the research a little bit more, so I could have better understood where I was and asked more questions about how to improve, and been more open to that feedback of, like, how am I doing? What works here and what doesn't? I think it just would have shaped my path very differently.
When you say do the research, what do you mean?
Well, like, okay, so when I left college, there wasn't, the internet was not what it is right now. So we had the Art Search, the black and white Art Search magazine that had listings in it, and so I just signed up for things and went. But I didn't do the networking, and I didn't ask questions of the resources that I had, because I was afraid to look stupid, and I felt like I was supposed to just know these things because other people clearly did. So yeah, I guess maybe I think the research and the networking is ubiquitous now. Like everybody knows about that. So I think the thing that might apply still is don't be afraid to ask the questions that you don't know. You know, and just find someone who will answer them for you safely. And also, if somebody, like, I don't believe there aren't any stupid questions. So if somebody reacts to you poorly because of it, or makes you feel badly because of those questions, ask somebody else. Like, don't let that turn you away from it.
Excellent. Let's go to Jill next.
Oh, there's so many things. I guess the first thing I would say is, I gotta be kind to yourself and be forgiving to yourself. I mean, I started off doing a couple of internships, and it was really hard. I mean, when I got into stage management, I didn't really know anything about it other than I want to do that. And it was really tough, and I didn't know I didn't know how to forgive myself for making, little mistakes. I thought, oh my God, it's the end of the world. So I think, and that was a big thing. It took me a long time to learn that it was okay to, that not only is it okay to mess up, but that's what you're supposed to do when you're entering the workforce. In fact, the profession sort of designed to train you from knowing, from 0 to 100, where, when you're getting into it, it's okay and it's expected that not everything is going to be absolutely pristinely perfect. That's okay. Forgive yourself for the mistakes. If you have a crappy mentor, switch mentors. They're not all good. And every stage manager that you work, not every stage manager that you work under is going to be the right stage manager for you, until you get into calling shows at companies or wherever you want to be on that track. That's not necessarily the end all goal for everybody, nor should it be. But yeah, if you're in a situation that is not good for you, it is okay to extricate yourself, and go to one that serves you better. There's more. I could like hog the entire conversation, but that's a good start.
Excellent. Yeah, I want to highlight something you said about making mistakes. I've worked with a lot of ASMs and things happen. And like, a sign of a good stage manager is they tend to not make the same mistake twice. You learn from that. If you miss a prop, you're triple checking it the next time, that sort of thing. Sarah.
I just kind of wanted to reiterate what Erin said, that it is a small world. I kind of feel like after I did my internship, I was at the same company for my internship, and I became PSM for Alaska Repertory Theater. So I went from intern to PSM in 5 years. But I also think that after that, I barely had to look for a job because the word got around. I'm looking for a stage manager. Who do you suggest? And then my name would come up. And so it really is a small world, because I really feel like, when I was much younger, I never had to struggle to get a job. I think the scene is obviously very different now, but I kept working. And the way I started doing opera is they needed an ASM. I didn't know anything about opera. So, but they hired me because there's not that many stage managers in Alaska. I kind of fell into it, and then I just kept doing it. So that's, if you get a good reputation, if you do your job, no drama, call the show well, all that kind of stuff, word gets around. And like Erin said, it's a really small world.
Matt?
One of the things that I've discovered is that not all theaters know what a stage manager does. And so sometimes it's a growing experience with you trying to teach the theater how to use your skills, but also trying not to overdo it because sometimes they're not ready for it. So being able to teach small companies, because I've worked for a lot of them, and some have these high expectations and they don't really know how to utilize your skills. And so working with directors and trying to find that happy medium where you can both function very well, but also help elevate that theater so that the next time they hire you or or they're looking for somebody, they're not just accepting anybody, that they really want to have a higher quality tech at the table, and that way the next production is that much smoother, that much better, that much, better communicated. Because sometimes when you walk in and they're blown away by just a simple thing of doing a rehearsal report and you're going, that always happens. But for them to go, we never did them, but we can't function without them now. And I'm like, you shouldn't have been functioning without them before. So sometimes I think it's really cool when we can help elevate small theaters, and even if they're not regional or Broadway, because so many of us, when people hear we're stage managers, think that we want to go to Broadway, and it's like, no, I don't. I love being able to work with small intimate theaters and to really be able to find that little niche where you can do really fun things with a great company that you just enjoy working with and exploring what they come up with in their seasons.
I think that I'm pretty terrible at taking compliments as it is, but when directors or somebody compliments me and I'm like, you're complimenting me because you haven't gotten that out of other stage managers, that's a little scary, like a company I introduce performance reports for. Yeah. Tony, did you still want to add something?
Sure. I'm going back to the original topic, a question, which was, what do you do when you're starting out? And I did not get a stage management degree. I started out as an actor, and when I became a stage manager, I want to sort of echo what Brandy and Jill said, which is that I asked people for help. I'm fearless as far as that goes. It's like, if I don't know something, I would rather find out from a professional than get caught with my pants down and not, know what I'm doing. I would ask actors that I knew who had been on the road, and I would say, who was your stage manager? And they would say, oh, it was this guy, or it was this woman. And they would say, here's their email, call them, ask them. And they were forthcoming with advice or information. I mean, I don't think I've ever encountered another stage manager who would withhold advice or information. I think we're a pretty tight-knit group. I'm really fortunate for that. They helped me a lot. So I would say, I sort of flew by the seat of my pants getting started. And I think you just have to be fearless. You just have to, don't worry about what people think about you, do your job. And always remember, people on Broadway, stage managers on Broadway, make mistakes. They really do. So don't worry about it. Just don't make the same mistake twice.
Excellent, thank you. Kimberly?
Yeah, one of the things that I wish I would have known is that stage management never feels easy. Like, you're never gonna arrive and be like, now it's an easy job. You just continue to feel more and more equipped to handle the things that are coming at you, and you learn from experiences, and all of a sudden you have this time of experience and all these different shows, and pocket in your tool belt, and you're able to pull from those experiences to make something that you're more equipped to deal with, versus you arrive and you're like, okay, well, now I've learned everything. It's easy. It never is easy per se, but you become much more prepared to deal with everything that's coming at you.
That is so good to hear, because I feel like my script or way I set up my prompt book is never good enough, and it sounds like it's always a process making yourself better. Emily.
So something I've learned is I feel like us as humans and being stage managers, we're super critical of ourselves, and like we make one mistake and we'll dwell on it. Like I know the first time I called my first show with Milwaukee Ballet, I was like, I messed this up so bad, I'm gonna get fired. And the artistic director came to me, he's like, you're one of the best stage managers that's ever called this ballet. So remember, you're human. You need water during rehearsal. You need food. You need sustenance during those 10 out of 12s. Like, just remember, like, you are human. You will make mistakes. You are not a machine. You have emotions. Your emotions are valid. When you are frustrated, chocolate does wonders.
They should start distributing that as SMA swag, Aaron, as chocolate bars. Bring that up to Ella Marie next time.
I finally got us to get the rubber ducks. Do you know how many years I fought for rubber ducks and people thought it was a silly idea? We now have rubber ducks.
If you don't know about the swag box Facebook group, email me and I'll let you in the know. Mallory, did we have another hand that disappeared?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Oh, Judy, let's talk with Judy. You're still muted.
I don't have a lot more to say. It seems like people covered a lot of things. Realizing that any job you do in the theater will be helpful to stage management. Any way that you can see how a production gets put together through someone else's eyes is a good thing. Once you've done props, then you treat prop people differently, and not being afraid to try something, even if it's not directly your first choice of what you're interested in, because everything feeds it. And yeah, the small world and the being kind to yourself and making yourself take breaks is also a good thing. Feel like that was something I struggled with a lot, where it's just got to get it done, and you have to take care of yourself too.
Take your days off, please. If an email comes in and it's super important, okay, but if it can wait, take the day off and answer it in the morning. I want to take this moment to take a yes or no poll. If you have worked since leaving school in a job that isn't stage management, click yes. And if you've worked strictly stage management, go ahead and click no.
Do you mean in the theater or any?
Yes, thank you, in the theater. So something that lighting, crew, box office, any of those sorts of things. So we have 10 yeses and 1 no.
So once again, not everybody is because there's 18 of us and we only add up to 11. So if you haven't figured out where it is, hover over the bottom or if you can see already everybody's listing the participants is what you're looking for. And then at the bottom of participants, there's a green yes and a red X with a no, green check mark. And that's where we're looking. And then we're seeing the tallies. So it only adds up to 12. So there's 6 of you not checking things.
And they might be the students, because I'm assuming you are doing more than just stage management.
Good on you.
But yeah, we are majority yes. So I think that helps in terms of evidence that more experience, being able to speak other people's languages is very helpful.
Well, for me, it makes it, I always try to tell, especially younger stage managers, be on the receiving end of that report. How would you feel if it was, given to you the same note? And if you have more experience on the other end, they want to solve all the problems too. That's their fun part. You don't have to solve them for them. But if you have an idea of what their world is or what their time frame is, all that kind of stuff could help just inform you. And if I'm looking at a job a cover letter for a job, I don't want to know that you were a scenic painter, but you could say, I was a scenic painter on the same show you guys are doing this year, or I was a scenic painter and I saw the rehearsal reports and how that, don't just say I was a scenic painter, but relate it to stage management. And because it only will help you be a better stage manager.
I want to pause here, Frank. I'm going to get to you in just a second, but Shelby has joined us. And so I want Shelby to be able to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I just graduated from University of Wisconsin Oshkosh with 2 degrees in stage management and the French language. So I like that. But my gig for this summer got canceled. I was supposed to be at Santa Fe Opera, so that's a huge bummer. But they are giving us like preference next season, so looking forward to that. Yeah, that's about it. Is there anything else I'm supposed to share?
No, what was something you said? Well, I had a couple of grad school buddies to work Santa Fe Opera, so that's exciting. Nope, can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. I'll message you. Oh, just a second. I think we have one more joining us. Caitlin, are you there? Hello. I'll have Frank answer the question on up, as it were, and then I'll have you introduce yourself, Caitlin. So just a second. Frank, what would you tell your younger self?
Echoing Judy 100%, learn everything you possibly can, other departments, props, scenic, lighting, sound, everything you can. It's only going to be beneficial. Maybe it's another gig you get, some way, shape, or form, but it helps your understanding so that when you're working with those individuals or that particular department, they understand you know what you're talking about and are just ultimately trying to help. So everything you can possibly learn and be that much more valuable to the organization, to the company, whatever it happens to be, keep on learning. I'm still learning.
Caitlin, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Excellent. And you're a little quiet if you get closer to your microphone.
Hi, sorry. Is that better?
A little bit.
My mic is really bad.
No worries. I think we can get most of it. If you would introduce yourself, where you go to school and so forth.
Okay, I'm Caitlin. Hi. I went to Marquette. I just graduated. And I don't know what else to say. That's the bulk of it.
That's perfect. Jill, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, budgeting. When you start off, it's hard to get a job, honestly, because nobody knows who you are, and a lot of times people will hire who they know or who their network knows. So, and starting salaries are puny and small. Intern salaries are terrible. So learn how to budget and be really frugal. Start saving something from every paycheck for an oh shit fund. For those times when, if you have a dry spell between shows, plan for that. Make sure you keep that in mind as you go. As you plan out your year. In opera, I usually plan out, I know what I'm doing about a year in advance, and you know where your spaces are. Financially plan for that so you can make sure rent is paid, car payments are paid and things like that. If it's in those times, find a job that will be flexible with your stage management. Like some will let you come in and drop in for a few weeks if you need just a side hustle. Find a side hustle so that you can make it through the dry spells. Eventually, you won't have to do that, but financially cover your butts, because it's tough in the beginning. That only lasts a few years. I mean, I think between when I graduated and I started like having regular gigs, it was about 4 years or so, I think. But financially plan for things, plan for dry spells, especially now, as we're trying to figure out how to be stage managers in a digital world. Financially plan for that. And if you don't know how to budget, or you want like, hey, what are the things I should be thinking of? Because real living outside of college is much different than living inside college. Ask people, get the information because it's out there. But definitely financially cover your butts.
It's certainly feast and famine, and the budgeting helps the famine, and the being able to handle your schedule helps in the feast. So you don't overcommit yourself. Erin, you had something to add?
Yeah, a lot of people aren't taught in college the difference between a 1099 and a W-2. In a perfect world, we are all employers, which is the W-2 part of it. There's a lot of us that are trying to get away from 1099s even being an option in our world, because 1099 is an independent contractor. You can go, I'll get that in a minute. So something that looks good on paper, 1099 independent contractors are theoretically, you have the ability to set some of your own parts. So like you want somebody to come to your house and fix your windows, they're a contractor because they give you their options of these are when I can do it, and you kind of set your own timeline. But we don't set our own timelines in the theater. We know when opening night is, we know when each performance is. So there's a lot of us who are trying to say none of us should be at 1099, but they are out there right now. So when you are looking at gigs and being offered something, know that there are advantages and disadvantages to W-2s and 1099s. W-2s, the employer is paying part of your taxes, as well as taking out some of your taxes for you and reporting them to the government and sending away some of that money. 1099s, you are stuck with it all later. So you have to budget for that. If you work a combination of the two gigs, you actually want to take less exemptions, or whatever's the right term, than you could, so that they're taking out even more money in case you are working a 1099. So anything union that I work is a W-2. That's part of being a union, but I do a lot of non-union opera and other gigs. And so I actually have them take more money out of my W-2 gigs, employer gigs, so that I have some in the bank for then when that opera gig shows up that nobody's taking taxes out. And there are also protections like workers' comp is a lot easier if you're a W-2, those kind of things. But right now, one of the big ways that people are learning that's an issue is unemployment compensation. Whether you're on it right now or not, you've probably heard a lot about this whole PUA and gig workers stuff. The thing is unemployment is usually only available to W-2 people. And the companies are taking a chunk of money and putting it into basically a reserve bank account with the state for you. And you can only pull on that if you've been a W-2 usually. There is right now, this PUA is available to gig workers. However, if you did both and you made just enough to file for any unemployment in a given state, they don't count any of your 1099 work right now, which is also throwing people into a middle of a thing. And then on top of that, unemployment is something that does not mean you're a failure. I have been receiving unemployment for, I went back to freelancing 5 years ago when I was at Skylight. And so since then, in between gigs, I sign up for unemployment because I have money in the bank, and it is something to count on. You can't count on it too much. And you certainly need to make money in order for there to be money in that reserve account, but it doesn't mean you're a failure if you go on unemployment, which I used to think so when my mother lost her job and she went on unemployment. I thought she was a failure. And now I realize that she earned that money. So why not take advantage of it? Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff about unemployment, and I've sadly become sort of an expert in it. So erinjoyswank.com/unemployment. I have a literally viral post, especially since the pandemic. It was written last year, so it's all about what you need to gather to do unemployment. But just know that there, and when you're looking at W-2s and 1099, if they both offer you, if a W-2 offers you $400 a week and a 1099 offers you $600 a week, well, the 600 sounds better, but you don't have the protections necessarily. You don't have any of your taxes being taken out. More taxes ultimately are going to come out, and then you won't be eligible for unemployment. So it might be better to take the $400 a week gig ultimately, especially if you've turned union and they're offering health weeks. That could eventually save you at least $900 a month later if you're working on health insurance. So just think about all of those adulting things.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to add is there is a movement on Facebook. I don't know much about it. I don't know if you can find it yourselves, but there's a Facebook group about unpaid internships. I believe in the wake of a revival of Black Lives Matter, people are starting to look at that more and try to advocate for better compensation for interns and such. Sarah, you want to add something more?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that in between stage management gigs, when I lived in Chicago, I was able to get work at doing wardrobe or doing sound or lights for some of those commercial theaters that Chicago used to have. So I was able to make the money, and then those producers got to know me, and then I was able to stage manage with them. So it makes a difference if your training also included tech. Also, what I did too was work temp jobs. Then you can start and stop at as much as you want. You know, you can set when you want to work, and if you get a gig, you can just stop working the temp job. So I thought that was pretty convenient too.
Yeah, definitely. I want to hear from our recent grads, and I think for the sake of time, just to budget our time, I'll take like 3 or 4 answers per question. So if you answer a question, let other folks answer the next question. So I'm gonna just call you guys out. Alexander, do you have a question for the group?
Yeah. How do you think the industry is going to change, especially with this pandemic and the role of the stage manager in the rehearsal hall, and then once it gets backstage during performances?
Excellent question. I'm sure that is on everybody's mind. Who would like to tackle it? Emily.
So Milwaukee Ballet, we have started to open up our studios for our dancers to be able to come in. So regulations that we're doing and that I've been helping out with our operations, especially for our summer intensive that will be starting next week, I think July 6th. We started taking temperatures. We have an app, which I can get the name to everyone if anyone's interested, where all of our employees log their temperatures before they come into work. And then we have a master person that gets to see all those temperatures. So we can look 7 days back and see, you know, how has their temperature changed, you know, where, if they got sick, who they've been in contact with. We are cleaning like crazy. My hands are so dry, which is fine, but we clean the studios a lot. Everyone wears masks, you know, and it's gonna, for us with dance partnering, right now we're limiting partnering to if they live in house together, and if they don't, you know, then they don't partner, which with dance is very interesting because you could live with your girlfriend and she might not be the best partner for you, but you know, now she's all of a sudden you're working with her and it's different than your usual partner that you work with in the rehearsal hall. So there's a lot of different changes that we're already implementing, but we also have a medical staff with us. For our dancers, they provide PT through Freighter, so they've also been a great resource for us to like know what masks we should use for our dancers, because our dancers are going to be required to wear masks in the studios. And just what we can do to help out. We got a new HVAC system, so it's a lot to consider just on the operations level, and then on top of that, in the rehearsal hall, you know, there's a discussion, how do we work with our pianist, and now we have a plexiglass wall around all our pianos. So,
do you have any information yet on how that translates to performance?
When I talked with the Marcus Center, they kind of talked about how, so a lot of things are changing with where to seat the audience. So Marcus Center isn't going to be allowing when they're able to open. We don't know when that's going to be, but their first couple rows won't be sold out because you don't have to notify the audience if they're in a certain, like let's say my performer had COVID. If they're far enough away from the audience, then they don't have to send out a mass alert saying like you might have been in contact with someone with COVID. And it's going to be kind of, I heard on our call too that there's some contracts going through saying, you know, like on top of you in the rehearsal hall, you're going to take care of yourself during this position and while you're in rehearsal, so we're able to do this. And smaller cast sizes, you know, our Nutcracker usually has 150 different kids rotating through different casts, and maybe we only have 2 casts. Instead of 4 casts of Mother Ginger kids, we have 2.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask a question, follow-up question? So I know you're an AGMA company, but is the stage manager AGMA too, or not?
So I'm not AGMA.
That's what I thought.
Because I'm company manager too. So it's
right. And so a lot of people are hearing things like, I think equity is going to be standing up for, certainly equity is like not even allowing people back to work right now, whereas AGMA, it sounds like you are back to work. Are your performers AGMA?
Our performers are AGMA, so they're technically AGMA for their certain contract weeks, so 36 weeks. We used to do a summer program called Ballet Beat where they weren't AGMA dancers and they were just dancers. So right now we have the studios open for them if they want to like actually be able to like, you know, do floor work. But it's kind of
not on contract right now.
Exactly. So that's
another thing that's the unions are kind of picking and choosing how much people can do too. And I do think that stage managers who aren't in the union or under union contract are going to be stuck with more of the cleaning and stuff like Emily is doing right now. And she's company manager too. I think the company managers are going to get stuck with a lot of the cleaning too, but it's something to think about.
Are you getting compensated? Like, assuming more cleaning equals more time, does that also equal more pay?
It depends on the week. So I've been fortunate enough throughout COVID to still be employed with the ballet. So I've been working, I had a background a lot in video editing and like news reporting and filming for sporting events. So they've been using me a lot to be like the company photographer now since I'm around. I've been doing videography for them and doing a lot of editing on top of all the worker comp claims and all that fun stuff. So I'm just getting my normal salary, but for me, I guess I'm willing to be a team player just because I want to be able to help out and help the arts get back as soon as they can and make sure like my dancers are able to like pursue the career they want to so I can pursue the career that I want to.
Thank you. Another respondent? Let's see, Jill?
Yeah, that's a $64 million question, Alexander. And from the opera world, I can tell you the answer is we have no idea. Because of the nature of opera and how much air is expelled while singing, no one has come up with a solution to make singing on stage safe without a vaccine. If anybody has ideas, we're all ears. The other thing that is going to dictate whether a company can perform or not is the venue. If you don't own your venue, you are at the whim of the venue. Like in Madison, Overture Center is closed until the end of November. So all performances are canceled, which means even if we had a solution and we were like, yep, we know how to do opera completely safely, or, you know, mostly safely, we would not be able to perform because our venue is closed. So there's a lot of different factors that go into if a company can produce or not, beyond just, you know, what do we do? You know, how do we even rehearse? How do we perform? It's, is there a venue to perform in? So big, big multi-layered question.
So Equity has somebody who has experience with something. Aaron, maybe you can tell me what I'm trying to get at. Who's like working with Equity on safety protocols, and they're a health professional and so forth. Does opera also, does as AGMA?
Yeah, AGMA is working. I know they're working with virologists. Say that word 5 times fast.
Something like that.
But they have not released anything yet. I know that right now they are working with, trying to work with companies about getting stuff digital and allowing digital things to happen. But until I thought they were working with Equity, but maybe not. But I mean, I hope they release something, because and that will also determine with AGMA companies, that will be a big determination of what is possible.
Without taking the time on it, because we discussed it quite a bit at the last meeting, if somebody has the ESA link to put in the chat, that is some light reading to consider for everyone in the meantime. Frank?
Just echoing Jill's as well, nobody knows. I mean, we just lost our Nutcracker this week. It was planned for the Fox Cities PAC, and we were just told by PAC that they're not doing anything this year. January 1 is the earliest, so I just spent the entire week canceling drops and everything. It's just unfortunately part of life. Shifting gears a little bit, my main gig at the arena, we have no idea. Right now the NBA is doing kind of a sequestered encampment down in Orlando. The arena we are at has an NBA G League team, so it's the minor league. We don't have any idea what November is going to look like. Is it going to be an arena with players and no fans, and we just deal? No one is really certain right now. I think a lot of people are waiting on what the next couple months hold. Are the cases decreasing? Can we do it safely? And then how do you protect everyone?
And I think part of Alexander's question, if I can speak for him for a second, is like, you know, we have our immediate problems, and then what does theater look 5 years from now? At least this is what Alexander's question made me think of. You know, I've seen the memes on Facebook of, you know, making the things we do now like a traumatic response, like the way our grandparents hoarded after the Depression. You know, in 5 years, our stage manager is still gonna be wiping down every single prop every single night, that sort of thing. So if you have an answer or a feeling, go ahead and raise your hand, and you can talk about it, but it's something I'm putting out into the ether. Let's move on to Caitlin. Do you have a question for the group?
I've had this question just like before, and I know that nobody knows what's happening right now and like how to deal with it. But right now especially, I feel like there's a necessity for, I guess, those with experience to kind of guide those that are looking to get into the industry and kind of, I don't know, just you like help us figure out what to do, and like we can, I don't know, like the only thing that I'm thinking of is I just graduated and I have no idea what's going on, especially now, like more now than ever. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, in your perspective, like, I guess, like, what can I do? What should I do? And, like, I don't know. I kind of want to like discover ways to go about working in a pandemic, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I'll kind of start this one off. In my opinion, if you can find a stage management adjacent, as Aaron liked to say, muggle job, our skills are transferable, even if we can't use them in theater right now. I imagine there are other things out there, related to the census or related to contact tracing. I think Judy sent me a link about that. I'm also have a foot in the wedding industry, and that is getting back on its feet sooner than theater. So that's keeping me going. Brandy, I think I saw your hand up first.
Yeah, I think Caitlin is, hi Caitlin. As far as your question about if I understood right, what we do together and how the folks who are in the industry can tell everyone coming in what to do. I think the best thing that can come out of this whole pandemic and social justice awareness is that both generations work together. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately in terms of just generational things, just that it took me until 40 to realize that adults don't always know what they're talking about. The people in charge, like we're all at some point, like we said, we're still learning, which means we're also still making things up sometimes. And there's a lot that we can learn from each other about the way that things are changing so much. I think the more that we work together and bounce those questions off each other, and that we'll be able to meet in the middle on a compromise and make a better rehearsal hall and a safer place and a safer space and a better performance for everybody, which is not always the way. Like not every theater or place is that collaborative. I'm hoping that's going to be a big social shift. I had a second track, but I'll leave it at that for for now.
I think something you said made me think of like some of the habits that we are building in response to this pandemic would not be terrible to have all the time. Matt?
To answer Caitlin's question of what to do right now is if you want to stay in the area, one of the best things you can do is start to find out what type of theater or performances or events you want to do. Find the theaters and start to introduce yourself. Like this is the time where theaters, yes, we don't know what's going on, but they could be looking for people to help them, and it might be that you just get your foot in the door helping clean, or ushering, or whatever events that you can help with. You get your foot in the door, and like once they start working with you, then that might turn into oh, you do this too? Because I was able to do that with a company where I started doing one job and they now go, well, would you do both? So introduce yourself to companies, start to find, if you don't want to stay in the Milwaukee area or you want to move, move somewhere else, start to find out what theaters are in the area. Find out what's available. Find out, reaching out to other people, they might have other contacts in those areas. I mean, when you look at I can't see everybody on my screen right now, but when you look at this, amount of people, stage management is small. I know people in all these different states, and when I reach out to them, they're like, oh, I know so-and-so, and you're like, how? And so like, that's how you make those connections. You start finding these other stage managers, because unfortunately we can't do all the theater sometimes that's offered to us. We pick and choose. So by introducing yourself either to other stage managers and trying to find out what you want to do.
Depending on who it is, some people got nothing but time to do some networking, Zoom, coffee meetings. Jill?
Yeah. So one of the things I've been doing during this pandemic as a stage manager is, so my company does a summer, normally a summer outdoor concert, which we cannot do. It has now gone digital, and my role is normally an event manager / stage manager for it. It's now pivoted to being more of a project manager for the digital side. So I'm managing all the recordings and making sure that people are meeting deadlines and have the equipment and the information they need, and that they're getting the tracks that they need in order to do the recording. And I was talking to my audio engineer, and he was like, yeah, we've been slammed since the beginning of this. And I jokingly said, it sounds like you need a stage manager. And he said, yes, I do. And my next email is going to be following up and saying, so, do you mean it? Because stage managers are good at scheduling. It is remarkable how many people don't know how to schedule, but we can do that. We are schedulers. Our other powers are communication. We're great at communication and organization. These are three things which, as it turns out, a lot of people in the world are not good at. But those are three transferable skills that you can grow and build on while we're waiting to go back to a rehearsal. And in these skills, you can use them in any area. So, for instance, there's restaurants that are doing all these curbside pickups. I wonder how organized that is. Do they need somebody to schedule that? Is there one that, they're doing it, but it's just not working? Do they need somebody who can come in and schedule and communicate and organize it? That sounds like a stage manager. So it's basically taking those three skills and it's not just three. There's also people skills. We learn how to communicate with directors, performers, tech crew, administration. Those are four completely different food groups that you communicate differently with them. So that skill of being able to talk to different food groups is incredibly important and applicable in other settings. So I would take this opportunity to look for those look for things, or even other nonprofit organizations that are still working right now. Do they need somebody to come in and help organize, communicate, and schedule? Look at what organizations and businesses are busy up to their eyeballs, and then say, hey, I just graduated, I'm a stage manager, I have these skills, I would like to put them to work. I would like to put them to work for you, and see what happens. Any experience you get building those skills will only help you when you get back into the theater.
Erin, to add?
Yeah, if you have free time right now, which a lot of us do, that doesn't mean you have to like write the world's next best play or do all the perfect things, or even have your house immaculately organized, because there's a reason you have a virtual background behind me right now. However, one of the good things to come out of the pandemic is I have fought for years to try to have online stuff for the national members of the SMA. And I had done 4 of them before we hit the pandemic, but now we've done like 15 since the pandemic started. If you are an SMA member, all of them, once they're edited by yours truly and a couple other people, are up in the video galleries, but also the website is down for maintenance right now. It's going to be super duper spectacular, hopefully tomorrow when it's back up and running. But we have a public access page. So even if you're not an SMA member, it's a rotating opportunity of usually 2 webinars and 2 interviews with other stage managers. So if you've never done opera, go find the opera one and see if that's something you'd like. Because that was one of the things I didn't mention earlier, is try everything. I tried opera way too late. So it took and then you can't do opera till you've done opera is a lot of it. But at the younger ages, they're like, oh, well, you've got those skills, come be an ASM. When you are a 35-year-old, at the time when I tried to get into opera, actually, I think it was even younger. Anyway, but I'm too set in my ways, so I'm harder to break into opera. But if you're younger, try opera, try Cirque. Now I'm known for being somebody who's willing to try anything. So somebody said, when I was younger, said, hey, do you want to try Rockettes? So I did. I happened to luck into, hey, do you want to try opera? So I did. And I kind of lucked into, hey, do you want to try Cirque? More so I went, oh, I think I could actually do that. But just so take this opportunity, if you can, to go research some of those other areas and see if there is something you like, or listen to others, because yes, you're going to screw up. So if you can listen to how other people screwed up, maybe you won't screw up in that way. You'll find your own new way to screw up.
And I'll totally put everybody here on the spot and be like, I imagine that most people here, if you as a student emailed them and say, hey, I was on that call with you and I'd love to hear more about whatever, they're probably going to answer. I'd like to move on to more students. Emmy, do you have a question for the group?
I do. Something that none of my professors have ever been able to tell me is how often to update my paperwork or to change my paperwork. So I was just wondering how often you all do that.
When it needs it.
How do you know when it needs it, Erin?
It's gotten so full of scribbles that you can't read it anymore, and you better do it before you lose what the train of thought was for those 2 words that mean something. I'm a big fan. I can make you the prettiest paperwork in the world. There's also the getter done. And if ain't nobody else going to see it besides me and I can follow my scribbles, it doesn't need to be done. If you are about to go into a designer run through and you can make paperwork for them to follow along as they're going, that's a great time to update it in time for the designer run, in time for first tech. Those after a couple of days of tech, then it's how much can we do on the fly so we're not having to be at home. But that goes back to that care and feeding of yourself. And yes, the paperwork can be redone, but can you get by one more day and nobody's gonna really do anything about it? It might be better off for you to sleep and eat.
Emmy, when you say update, do you mean within one production, or do you mean change up the way you do it from production to production?
Both, but mostly from production to production.
So does anybody with their hands up want to reconsider their answer in light of that, or still want to answer? Jill?
Yeah, so the way I do paperwork does morph and evolve over time, because you'll discover what works better for you. But another thing to consider is that a lot of some companies will have the way they like to do it. So you have to be able to adapt to that. But if it's a place where you get to use your own format, it's gonna evolve and grow. Even during production, you realize, oh, this is terrible. Or you talk to the prop crew and they go, well, if only you put little dots by the props, we can check them off. I'm like, oh, okay. So I started doing that. But as you go, it will evolve. And as you talk to the crews that you work with, find out, because it's for them. Find out what, maybe you're doing something really, you think is really clever, but they don't, it's in their way, or it's not helpful for them. Keep evolving it as you go, and listen to the people who you are making the paperwork for.
Thank you. Brandy?
Yeah, I think that listening to the people you're making the paperwork for is huge. Within a production, I found out after a number of years that I was driving my crews crazy by trying to do constant updates, because it was harder for them to read the new paperwork in tech than to check their own notes. So I kind of started finding benchmarks and go, okay, when we hit the stage, we need fresh paperwork. And then when does this crew want more or need more? And then for certainly preview, opening, you can clean those things up. So yeah, there is a world where you can overdo it on the updates, practically speaking. And as far as between shows for me, I always thought that my paperwork was pretty consistent. And looking back at it over the years, I tinker with it every show to meet the needs of the show, because I happen to be at 2 SPT companies where everybody does their own thing. The companies I was with don't have they don't have their own format. So actually Judy's and mine and some UWM templates kind of made the rounds. But yeah, if there, I change it all the time.
Anybody else want to chime in? Good question. Shelby, do you have a question for the group?
I guess it's not much of a question, but I am interested to see with how theater is going to change, how outdoor theater is going to become like faster to be open than indoor theaters. Because I've just read so much on with the protests and people not getting COVID with that. If they wore face masks and were outside, it was so much less likely for that virus to reach farther. And so I just wanted to add this opinion in earlier with how is theater going to change. I think outdoor theater is going to be the main venue for a while at least. And so I just am interested to see where it goes. I don't really have any other questions. I feel like joining late, I don't know if I'm going to reiterate something and I don't want to, I don't know, drag the conversation on. So thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I think that's interesting. I hadn't heard that, but I see the similarity in the movie industry and drive-in suddenly becoming a thing. I can't speak to our Door County siblings up north, but the outdoor theater that I've worked in has rehearsed inside. So I wonder if how that is a factor. Erin, did you have your hand up?
Well, there's been talk, I can actually see if you can quarantine a cast together, then it's the whole thing of is it company management that's helping to make sure they get food? And do you do Zoom rehearsals for that first 2 weeks until you make sure that everybody's by themselves? And then do you monitor people everybody night? Is it on there's all of those kind of things. But there was a theater around here in Colorado who is talking about having the show on stage and then turning it into a drive-in outside the theater. So projecting it onto one wall and having everybody, come in their cars, kind of a thing. And I know that some dinner theaters are now making box lunches basically, or box dinners, I guess it would be, so that you're not going through a buffet line. But I do wonder if those are going to be some of the first things to come back. If you can convince everybody to quarantine together, and some people I've talked to some stage managers who are no, I won't do that. I need to be on my off hours. I can see myself doing that. Going somewhere, I've gone to Utah for a summer, I've gone to whatever, and pretty much stayed at my housing. Yeah, would I like to be able to go anywhere? But if it's about having a job and actually feeling safe, if all the other people around me are theoretically doing exactly the same thing and not going to the bars at night and things like that, that might be the way to do it. I don't know.
Emily?
So I've worked at American Players Theater and Peninsula Players. I did their internship. So APT tends to do their rehearsals outside when they can. So because they're rotating rep, it's really hard for everyone to get the stage, obviously. So there's gonna be a change with that, especially if it's a repertory theater like APT, because can you, in a day, is it gonna be a mixture of Zoom / we're rehearsing outdoors? An interesting thing too, my friend that works at Barter Theater, they're actually doing a drive-in movie style for theater. From my understanding, it's going to be kind of play down here, big screen projecting it up there. So that will be interesting.
Which theater did you say, Emily?
Sorry, what?
Which theater is doing this, did you say?
Barter Theater in Virginia, I believe. My friend works there, and he said that they're going to be doing a little play down here, big screen up there. So
feels like Rocky Horror in reverse with a shadow cast.
Yep.
Any other responses? Sydney emailed me a question. So I'm just gonna, we have a few minutes left. We've gone through all our grad. So Sydney, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I can go find the email I sent you for like specific, like what I actually said. But I think we kind of addressed some of what I asked. But like, what are some like things that we could do as recent grads or not recent grads, so like people who are still in college, like over summer where like our internships have been canceled or we can't do anything, like any online trainings that you know of or like things that we can do now to get a better handle and build skills that like while we're kind of like stuck at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
That like if you're a person that like hires student stage man or like hires interns or hires ASMs or stage managers, like something that you would look for and that you would see that somebody had done with this time that you'd be like impressed by, you know?
That is a fabulous question. I'm just gonna step in for Erin and say that especially as an SMA member, there are all sorts of webinars at your disposal. They are somewhat during different times of day and different days of week. Like I said, I still have a day job, so I can't be there for a lot of them, but then they post the video later. And even if you're not a member, you can follow the SMA, the Stage Managers Association on Facebook. We post things in addition to the public page and USITT and Theater Art Life. You're the Stage Manager is a Facebook group. And they did have a website. Erin, is that website still a thing for our non-Facebook folks?
It is under construction. So right now, no, they're working to revamp it because it had been anyway, it was set up monthly and then the pandemic hit. And so right now, You're a Stage Manager is basically all about the Facebook group. Yeah. Which then has webinars or discussions or whatever. And I would also add in things like I'm about to see, I think it's through the end of July. So I got to look, I can't remember if it's free or if it's $10, but Event Safety Alliance, the link that I sent earlier with the whole reopening guide, they've got some sort of training that if you put in the right code, and I know I'm being very vague because I can't remember what it is, but anyway, there's some training of theirs that is free or very, very reduced, like $10 right now. I know people are doing first aid training online if you haven't gotten that. We're trying to get a mental health first aid. There's a free one for Red Cross right now that's like a 2-hour class. So I've signed up for it, but I haven't actually done it. Mental health first aid is the program I prefer if you can do it. But right now they've only been in person, but I know they're working to make it available online. And both myself and You're the Stage Manager are working together to try to get, there's a facilitator or whatever is the right term for their group of people to teach other people who is a theater person. So we're working to try to make a first an intro and then maybe a whole class for that. OSHA certification, there's a 10 and there's a 30, which do cost money, but those might be certifications to try for right now.
And then 30 meeting hours?
10 hour or 30 hour. Yeah, OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 are literally the names of the classes. Like in Nevada, it's questionable depending on how you read the rule whether stage managers need OSHA 30, but certainly anybody managing a crew, which that sounds like us to me, has to have an OSHA 30 if you live in Nevada or if you work in Nevada. So 10 is just good for everybody to have. There are also like event management courses out there for various kinds. So if you go to a lot of these Facebook groups, this question has come up a lot about what certification should I try to take. And so those are some of the main ones that have come up, but certainly, and anything like sign language. If you can get, I need to really brush mine up right now, but that certainly can help you be more marketable, or another language. All those kind of things too can only make you more marketable and also give you something to do right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction between which SMA webinars can I put on my resume versus, just a cool conversation I sat in on. So if you have a question about that, feel free to email anybody and we can give you feedback on that. Judy, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to do the same thing and give a shout out to all the SMA and SMA partner. There's so much going on. I've been really appreciative of all that. And it's also a low-level form of networking too. So you see who people are and what they do.
Yes.
I definitely make opinions by how somebody, if somebody asks the same question and they haven't done a research or they have a very dumb, for lack of a better word, follow-up, I'm like, maybe not somebody I want to hire. But somebody asks an intriguing question or has an interesting follow-up or whatever, they start going on my list and I see their faces in these networking more. You know, I'm already making judgments about my own little networking circle based on the interactions I've had during the pandemic with people.
Brandy?
So that's an amazing amount of resources right there. And I'll just still answer because mine is very different. But just two things that I wish I had done that I kept going, oh, someday when I have time, was to actually take an Excel course, which a lot of people may have had now. I learned Excel on the job to make it function for stage management. And boy, when I went into production management and company management, did I wish I actually knew how to write a formula instead of just Googling it every time I needed something. That and SketchUp, that wasn't a thing. Learning SketchUp or whatever the new thing is would be mostly helpful for production management, but even just having someone in the room who could have translated it for me would have made them invaluable. So that being said, those were mine, but assess your own skills of like, what have you learned a kind of perfunctory version of that you could learn better to make it more widely applicable?
Oh, my vocabulary is escaping me. What's the CAD program that starts with a V that everybody uses?
Vectorworks.
Vectorworks, thank you. I don't know if Vectorworks is doing anything, but if you can learn Vectorworks, my God, is that cool when you communicate with a scenic designer or a TD. Matt, do you have a quick answer?
Just to go off Brandy's, if you can learn other programs like QLab and stuff like that, it makes you invaluable just to be able to do something of, I need to turn this, I need to adjust the volume on it versus having the person go, I just use the volume bar on the computer. Like being able to use the program, just basic functions can make you so invaluable in a rehearsal space or that. So like being able to take those kinds of playing around, you know, just start playing with it and utilize your friends that you were in school with and ask them the programs they've used and start to like use them to learn how to do the programs, because the more you know in the rehearsal room, the better you're going to be, you know, to be able to have that knowledge.
Isabel, we have a minute. How quickly can you ask your question?
I'll try to ask it as quickly as possible. As we're going back and as we're starting to hold rehearsals again, what do you guys view or predict will be the role of a stage manager in keeping rehearsals safe and keeping your cast healthy?
Jill?
We're going to be the first line of defense. Honestly, that's where the company's going to rely on us to be the headline for that. So we just have to be prepared. Learn all the safety stuff you can, because that's what they're going to be asking you to do. So the Event Safety Alliance stuff, read everything you can, so you have an awareness of what they're going to be asking.
Other input?
And I think even if it's like, because there's a big contingency of equity stage managers online who are very vocal about, it's not my job, you'll have to pay me more and all sorts of stuff. That said, who do you think it's going to actually go to if it's not equity stage managers and it's in the rehearsal hall? Probably the people fresh out of college. I mean, if you want to be really honest about it. And yes, probably the equity stage managers, we're going to have to do more than some people want to do or think that they should do. And yes, there's the whole team player aspect that we talked about earlier. I do worry that we're going to be tried to take advantage of, and that we shouldn't necessarily be the ones in charge of HIPAA, the privacy laws about health and all that kind of stuff. But it is going to come to some of us, and it's probably going to really come to those of us that don't have somebody above us saying, no, they can't.
Judy, did you have your hand up for a second? You're still muted.
The union's going to weigh in some ways, but yeah, a lot of it's going to come to us anyway, probably.
Emily?
I think as stage managers, a lot of people see us as a level-headed person in the room, and that a lot of people find comfort in us just being there and being that person that kind of has their together. So I think a lot of it's going to fall on us. I mean, like as a non-equity or AGMA stage manager, I mean, I'm already looking into doing temperature checks and stuff like that. You know, and it might fall on the ASM. Some places are looking at specifically hiring someone for those kind of duties, but at the end of the day, yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you everyone for being here, for your questions, for your answers. I just have a couple of housekeeping things here at the end. Like I said, I'm the Milwaukee Vice Regional Rep, so that is my focus. And when I hold in-person events, they are mostly in Milwaukee. But if you would like to join the Milwaukee Stage Managers Facebook group to have that be another touch point and networking point, I invite you to request to join that. If you think of additional questions, you can either email them to me or you can post them in the group and have other people respond to those. This summer was supposed to be me kind of branching out into other parts of the state, like we did Madison in May, and the other one I'm interested in highlighting is Door County. So my next two topics between July and August, I haven't decided which month is which, is Door County theaters, and the other one is outdoor events. So if you or someone you know has worked either at a Door County theater or has worked any sort of outdoor event, whether it's theater or you've worked a festival or concert or whatever, stage management across any outdoor performance genre, email me, or if you have a great contact that you think would speak on that, get me in touch with them on that too. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Cool. Again, thank you for your time. Have a good week. Drink water, eat chocolate, take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Veronica and Erin.
Bye, Veron. Bye, everyone.
And Mallory.
Bye.
Bye.
This was great. Thank you.